Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Alter Confusion Look Back on Con Nooga 2016. I, of course, am your host, Charlie, and I know that's usually, well, actually, the last convention we did, Zelius and I tag teamed it, but I figured that I would just go ahead and get Con Nooga 2016 review out of the way, and of course, we'll talk about it more on the Thursday night hangout. So let's talk about Con Nooga. Con Nooga, of course, is held in Chattanooga, Tennessee every single year. It is held partially in the Chattanooga Convention Center and then also at the Chattanooga Choo Choo. Most of the, it's kind of really hard to gauge, but basically all the adult stuff, 18 plus stuff, happens at night over at the Choo Choo. The Convention Center, of course, closes, I think, about at 8. The vendor room, of course, closes at 7 most of the days, except for Sunday, which closed at 2. All right, so let's talk about the adventure of Con Nooga. As you know, Alter Confusion, this is probably the 3rd or 4th year. I can't remember. I think it might be the 3rd. It might be our 3rd. It might be our 3rd. Anyways, so we go up to Con Nooga for the 3rd year straight, and once we get up there, we have a shit ton of stuff to move in. I decide I'm going to go ahead and get the badges and make sure we know where the fan table is so that myself and Zelius, or John, doesn't have to lug all the stuff around, all to Kingdom Come, because, you know, there's basically 6 different places you need to go to, or you might need to go to. So we get there. I go to the vendor's table. I say, hey, I'm here for my badges. They go, are you a vendor? And I said, no, I'm a fan table. They're like, oh, we don't have your badges here. I was like, okay, well, maybe you have me as a panelist. They're like, okay, what's your name? And I, of course, said Charlie, and we're with Alter Confusion. And he goes, nope, don't have any badges for you. Go check the ops room. So I go over to the ops room. I'm like, hey, I'm here to pick up my badge. Is 2 badges. One for me, one for John or Zelius. And they say, what's your name? Of course, once again, Charlie, and then John. Don't have you. I was like, okay, we also have a fan table. Don't have you there. And they're like, okay, but you said you're a panelist. I said, yes. And they looked it up. I said, oh, no, you don't qualify for badges. And I said, excuse me? Because I've never been told that there's a change in requirement for getting a badge. Because the first time we showed up, it was 2 panels, and you get a free badge. Now, apparently, I don't know, this is just a rumor, but the rumor is that it requires 6 panels to get a badge, which is astronomical. There's no way that you could physically do 6 panels, and to be honest with you, no offense to the program, the different panels, but I think that some of those panels were just thrown together and are total BS simply so that they could get a badge. And they had no relevance whatsoever and were probably very poorly run. I don't know because I also had a fan table, which hello everyone who showed up to the fan table. Thank you so much for coming by. We hope that you liked all the games that we decided to play. Just for reference, the games that we played was Pixel Galaxy, available on Steam, Sproggywood, available on Steam. Basically every single game was available on Steam, let's just put it that way. So you had Pixel Galaxy, you had Sproggywood, you also had Guns, Gore, and Cannoli, you also had Ziggurat, and Tennis to the Face. I believe those are the only games we played. So those 5 games are available right now on Steam. And some of those games are actually available on multi-platforms. So if perhaps PC Steam is not your cup of tea, you can always check to see if it's on another platform. Because chances are, independently developed games probably have more than one platform that they're on. Alright, so let's get back to it. So somehow, I knew the magic words. I'm not going to tell you how I did it, but we got badges. Comped badges. But we had no idea where the fan table was. So I walk over to the gentleman who's guarding the door to the vendor hall, and I said, hey, I'm looking for where I need to check in for my my fan table. And he goes, oh, I think you need to go over to the Con Nooga info desk. So I go over there. And the girl looks like she's a deer caught in the headlights, and she goes, that's not us. You got to go to the vendor table. So I go over to the vendor table. I'm like, hey, I'm here to check in for my fan table. And they say, oh, you don't check in here. You got to go into the vendor hall. You got to go all the way to the left and then keep going until you find people with gray shirts. That's not very descriptive. But I stumble onto a table that's for a different convention with a bunch of people who have gray shirts sitting behind it. So I go up to them and I'm like, hey, I'm here checking for my fan table. I'm like, fan table? I said, yes. They said, you're not a vendor? I said, no. And they said, okay, what's the name? I said, Ultra Confusion. And they're like, well, that's appropriate because we're both confused as to why you would have a table. And I said, because I applied for one and Todd said I would have one. They're like, well, we'll see about that. They look it up and ta-da! Lo and behold, we have a table. So we go to the table. Sorry, this is a long story, but this is how my Con Nooga started. So I'm trying to get through all of the shit so I can get to the good stuff. So we go to, I'm going to have to draw this. I don't know if it's actually going to show up, but I'm going to draw this for you. We go to the, they take us, actually, let me get a permanent marker here. 1 second. And, you know, I think they disgruntledly said, oh, yeah, there's the table right there, okay? So there's multiple rows. In every single row, or excuse me, every single aisle, there is a section of 4 tables on each side and then a row that cuts across all of it. So, so let's say that, actually, let me do it this side first. Okay, let's say that this is the entire convention hall, okay? And let's say that we have doors here and here. And I'll just write doors on there because I'm sure that the lights were going to screw with it anyways. See, look at that. It says doors, okay? And this is a pretty huge convention hall, okay? There's like, I don't know, 8 aisles to go down. Like I said, there's rows too, and each section has 4 tables on one side, 4 tables on the other. We had the last table in the way back. Actually, it should have been over here if you were actually there, but because of mirror image, we're going to just say way up there, okay? We had the last table. The next 2 tables, blank. No one was there. The next table after that, a jeweler. A fantasy jeweler. Cool. So, I get our stuff. Zelius and I set up. And then we notice no one's really coming by. Because no one knows that they need to go on that side of the aisle. Whatever. You should talk about the woes of the thing real quick, and then we'll get to the good stuff. All right, so by the end of Friday, early Saturday, the jeweler gets moved, and so does a couple of the authors, because there's a couple authors there. I seriously think that they just randomly said, all right, let's throw people onto the board, and where they land, ta-da! Except for, of course, the guests. They got premium real estate, of course, because Con Nooga is paying them to be there. Anyways, the jeweler leaves or gets moved to a better section, and 2 authors get moved to a better section. Now it's getting really vacant. We've actually got 5 spots between us and the next person in our aisle, and on the other side is the Mandalorians, which, thank you Jesus, they weren't playing Star Wars music at the top volume like they were last year, because we were clinically insane. All of us were clinically insane around that specific table for about a week afterwards. Anyways, so Saturday rolls around. We get through Saturday. And then Sunday shows up. And now the entire aisle, minus us, have moved somewhere else. We were never offered, never asked if we want to move. So, in a fit of rage, I moved our table from up here all the way down to this section. And then I catty-cornered it. I pulled the curtain back. I put our banner there. I plugged us in. By the way, the power was $70, which was not disclosed. We found out when we showed up, and thankfully the Mandalorians were willing to split the bill with us, so we were able to get power. $70 for 3 days. My entire house cost like $120 for an entire month. $70 for 3 days. Not even 36 hours. It's more like, let's see here, noon to 7, that's 7 plus 10 to 7, that is 9, so that's 16, 9 to 2, that's 5, 21 hours, $70. That's insane. That should never happen. Anyways, So we plug up our stuff. I put a huge board up that says there's video games this way. And of course, thankfully, people showed up. All right, now let's talk about the good stuff. Wait, I've got one more thing. Once again, Con Nooga has decided that they want to basically hold their entire well-being in an app that continues to thwart everyone. The reason I say this is because not everyone has an iOS device or an Android device or has an up-to-date iOS or Android device. So certain devices didn't actually allow for the app to load. The problem is that the app is the only way that you know where everything is happening and at what time. Yes, do the panel rooms have a piece of paper about this size on it that has the entire convention's worth of information? So it's probably like, I don't know, at most 14-point font. So you literally have to be like this close to read it? Yes, it does. And unfortunately, for the individuals who are in the panel after us, they actually had to write in their panel because it wasn't there. Because once again, Con Nooga decided to just print the copies without making sure they were up to date before they printed them and then put them in front of the rooms. So if you don't have the app, you're SOL and trying to figure out all the panels unless you went physically to each door in red in fine print what was actually happening there and when. And of course, this is happening at the Chattanooga Convention Center as well as the Choo Choo. So there could be events that you're very interested in attending that you've heard about, but they're actually at the Choo Choo and not the Convention Center, but you wouldn't know if your app's not working because there's not a centralized calendar or board that would actually show you all the information. So a lot of people were pissed off because they missed their panels, or individuals didn't show up to panels because they didn't know about them because they didn't know the time or the place, which pissed off a couple of the local authors because some of the local authors were really interested in talking about their sci-fi experience, perhaps their writing process, and only like 2 people showed up, which Ultra Confusion totally feels your pain because last year we had a total of 4 and 2 people show up to our panel at Con Nooga. This year, amazingly enough, we had about 14 to 16 people in both our panels. The reason why that happened, for better or for worse, is that, ironically, Con Nooga put both our panels back to back. The first panel, Video Games Today, which was our attempt at trying to do a Thursday Night Live hangout from Con Nooga, which actually went very well. Unfortunately, the camcorder video went we had about 14 people in the room. It started at 5 p.m. and ended up 6:30. Our very next panel started at 7 o'clock and went to 8 o'clock. Thankfully, we retained the vast majority of our audience for the first one who bled into the second one. And of course, our second one was the destruction of the game industry as we know it, which we're always very happy to give. All right. So let's talk about the good stuff. It is always amazing to meet the individuals who show up to Con Nooga. They're awesome guys. Love the cosplays, love the costumes, love the enthusiasm, love the support for all the authors, the actors, the artists, the fan tables, the vendors. You individuals who actually show up to Con Nooga and pay for entry are amazing people. And then, of course, I have to, do a shout out to all the guests, the artists, the authors, the vendors, anyone who I talked to who set up a booth or were there to give panels. You guys also all freaking amazing. Unfortunately, I felt like the staff didn't really want to be there. And of course, I felt like the actual organization was haphazard with the fact that we didn't have badges. We were not told that there was a minimum amount of panels we had to attend. And of course, we were basically given some, bullshit attitude for asking about our fan table. And of course, we were thrown all the way in the corner and never, the jeweler and all the authors were asked, hey, would you like to move? We were never asked that, which makes us feel unwanted. Now, that being said, is Ultra Confusion coming back to Con Nooga? Probably, because we'd rather be there for the fans and deal with the bullshit than not be there. There are certain individuals who find us every single convention that they can go to. And to you, gentlemen and ladies, thank you so much. Now, of course, there are, like I said, there were some really good panels, there's some really bad panels, and there's a lot of discussion panels. And for those discussion panels, I really hope that people showed up. It is really hard to give a discussion panel when there's only 2 people in the room. Zelius and I learned that firsthand last year, but thankfully we had a lot of people, and I'm very happy. Oh, and thank you for all those individuals who actually came on and sat at the table with us for the video games today, where we brought individuals from the audience into the table and we talked about their video games and their preferences and a couple questions. So the hotels are awesome. The parties are awesome because, of course, you got to have con parties. So I guess in the end, the only thing you have to watch out for at Con Nooga is if you're going to be there as a fan, make sure that you find alternative ways to learn about what's going on. As a vendor or a fan table or someone who has a table, make damn sure you know all the outlines and make damn sure that everyone there understands that you're supposed to be there legitimately. For those panelists out there, apparently you got to make damn sure that someone actually tells you the minimum amount of panels you have to give to get a badge. I don't know if there's a grandfather law or not. This is the first time that we actually did not have a badge. They forgot about our badges last year, but they actually had us for badges. And then this year, there was no record of us ever needing badges or being allowed to have badges. So it's kind of a weird thing. First year, they had badges for us. The second year, they forgot about getting badges for us, but we were on the list for badges. And now this year, we weren't on any list for any badges, and we were treated like shite. So very weird. Anyways, thank you for tuning in. That's it for my Con Nooga review. I know it's not all good, but the thing is, Con Nooga is a fun convention. If you're in Chattanooga and you can be in Chattanooga around Con Nooga time, come. It's a solid convention for an attendee's point of view. There are costume contests. There are such a wide variety of topics that are being talked about in the panels. I just wish that people weren't forced to give so many panels in order to get a badge. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. There's my review of Con Nooga. Tune in Thursday for the Thursday Night Hangout. But until then, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you soon.